Honourable the Minister of Mental Health and Addiction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Moments ago, 75 Albertans rose above us. They rose to stand for recovery, raised high above the floor of our debating chamber, like the standards of our country and our provinces in full display. They remind us. Like our flags, their faces are full of meaning. In place of heraldry, their faces are marked with hardship on their brows. What crosses each face bears, most of us will never know. Weathered and wind-stripped, they face against the public nature of addiction and the public policy that flies in the face of their personal recovery story. Day after day, Mr. Speaker, they rise again and again, not in the grandeur of this place with our Corinthian columns and our standing orders, but instead they stand in order to maintain a life of recovery. Amongst the standards of recovery today, there are also standard bearers. These are our families, unwavering in the desire to lift up their children and their parents on the pathway they hope and believe to recovery. The frontline workers bearing so much of the recovery continuum on the streets and in our shelters, recovery coaches, sponsors, doctors, paramedics, nurses, police, our firefighters, volunteers, and of course the friends of those in recovery. Across our nation, families and communities have suffered from an addiction crisis that has brought so much pain and destruction for too many years, Mr. Speaker. What is clear to everyone in this gallery, to every Albertan in recovery, to every parent of a beloved child who suffers with addiction, it's this: it cannot go on. No more, Mr. Speaker, no more abandoning our children to the streets, to a life of crime and pain, of sexual and physical violence. No more despairing public policy that assumes some Albertans are too sick to be healed. Many governments thought that they could find an easier and a softer way, but they could not. Instead, this government, Mr. Speaker, is choosing recovery. His Majesty's government has invested in recovery because we know that recovery is not only possible, but it's probable when we build the capacity and the care pathways to deliver those from addiction into the hopeful embrace of recovery. The Virtual Opioid Dependency Program, the world's first of its kind, immediate same-day access, province-wide to evidence-based medication to deal with those suffering from addiction. 11 recovery communities, Mr. Speaker, 5 of them in true partnership with our Indigenous partners across this province. Therapeutic Living Units, Mr. Speaker, Canada's most innovative program for in-prison addiction treatment centres. Mr. Speaker, this is but a few of the programs, not to mention the Northern Alberta Youth Addiction Centre with 105 new beds recently announced, 2 compassionate intervention addiction centres, and so much more. Mr. Speaker, we've added 10,000 spaces to addiction treatment within the Alberta recovery model since we took office. Before our government's investment, sadly, those in recovery were in the wilderness, subject to a public policy setting under the Alberta NDP and the federal Liberals that chose despair over hope and addiction over recovery. We must reject this culture of destruction, Mr. Speaker, that has been planted around addiction and choose instead a culture of life. We must be a society that chooses the path of hope, the path of recovery, and the path to care for those who suffer. Our healthcare must heal those and not harm those who suffer from addiction. Mr. Speaker, Albertans unfortunately have been lied to by an activist class who have told us that we must choose between compassionate intervention and having safe communities. When we have the choice between the reality, Mr. Speaker, the choice is this, is between recovery and indefinite addiction in our communities, in our families. Mr. Speaker, there is nothing caring and nothing compassionate. Mr. Speaker, there's nothing Canadian about leaving our loved ones to be stripped of their dignity and given enough time, stripped of their life to this deadly disease of addiction. We cannot sit back and let this continue. There's too much at stake for our families, our communities, our province. Mr. Speaker, we must intervene. And a compassionate intervention, Mr. Speaker, is one that removes the loved ones from the grips of addiction and brings them into healing, into health. This is not a criminal justice response, Mr. Speaker. It is a healthcare response to our healthcare crisis, a public addiction crisis. If someone is in danger, whether it be themselves or endangering the community, as a result of their addiction, we must compassionately intervene to care for them. One individual, one Albertan, Mr. Speaker, overdosed 186 times last year, Mr. Speaker. And for that woman, every overdose was one breath away from death. One shelter operator told me last month that a man overdosed under her care 30 out of 31 days in the month of December. Mr. Speaker, I shudder to think of the 187th overdose that leads that dear woman to her death, or the 31st day that may be that man's last. But, Mr. Speaker, I have only to shudder. But for those in our gallery today, their hearts have only to sink, because they know and experience and the terror of living under the threat of addiction and death that many of us do not know. An overdose does not simply traumatize that one individual, it can traumatize an entire family, an entire community. Mr. Speaker, that is one overdose. Mr. Speaker, we must choose. We must choose, just as the faces above us in the gallery have today, whether we support recovery, and in doing so, whether we support the lives of those who are most dramatically affected by this deadly disease of addiction. Mr. Speaker, recovery is not only possible, it is probable. Recovery saves lives. I know this government believes in recovery. I know that those who have come before us in the gallery, who have lived this crisis before we decided to take part as a government, they believe in recovery, Mr. Speaker. I believe every Albertan knows in their heart that recovery is the path forward for those who suffer from addiction. I implore every member of this legislature to support us in the Alberta recovery model, in compassionate intervention, so that we can build a culture of hope and a possibility of a new life for Albertans to be brothers and mothers and community members again. And I pray members opposite will join us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yeah.